I met my husband's other wife at a Costco in Denver. She was buying diapers for their 2-year-old son, a son who looked exactly like the man I had been married to for 10 years. She saw me staring at her cart, at the child in the seat, at the wedding ring on her finger that matched the one on mine. She asked if I was okay. I said, "I think we're married to the same man." She dropped a jar of peanut butter and it shattered on the floor. That was the moment both of our lives ended and something new began. My name is Vivian. I'm 38 years old. And for 7 years I shared a husband with a woman I didn't know existed, in a city I had never visited, raising children I had never met. He built 2 complete families on a foundation of lies, funded both with money he stole from me, and never once showed a crack in his performance. He was that good. But I was better. And when I found out the truth, I didn't just leave him. I destroyed everything he had built. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the woman I was before I knew what my husband really was. I met Ryan Mitchell at a charity gala in Chicago in 2011. I was 25 years old, working as a pediatric nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, attending the event with a girlfriend who had an extra ticket. Ryan was 30, handsome, confident, wearing a tailored suit that fit like it had been made specifically for his body. He worked in medical device sales, he told me, traveling frequently to hospitals across the Midwest. He bought me a drink. He made me laugh. He asked for my number and actually called the next day, which felt like a miracle in the age of ghosting and games. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Flowers delivered to the hospital. Weekend trips to Michigan wine country. Long phone calls that lasted until 2 a.m. He was attentive, romantic, present in a way that made me feel like the only woman in the world. He met my parents after 3 months. He proposed after 8. We were married on June 15, 2012, at a small ceremony in Lake Forest with 70 guests and a 3-tier cake that we couldn't afford but bought anyway because Ryan said I deserved the best. I believed every word he said. I had no reason not to. The first year of marriage was everything I had dreamed of. We bought a townhouse in Lincoln Park, a 2-bedroom with exposed brick and a small backyard. Ryan's job required travel, sometimes a week at a time, but he always came home with stories about the hospitals he had visited, the doctors he had charmed, the deals he had closed. He was successful. He was driven. He was building a life for us. I didn't question the travel. Medical device sales was a field that required FaceTime with clients. Ryan explained that his territory covered 6 states, that he had to visit hospitals in person to demonstrate equipment, that relationships were everything in his industry. It made sense. It all made sense. That's the thing about good liars. Their lies always make sense. Our daughter Emma was born in 2014. She had my dark hair and Ryan's blue eyes. A beautiful combination that made strangers stop us on the street. Ryan cried when he held her for the first time. He called her his angel, his miracle, his reason for everything. He was a devoted father when he was home, changing diapers, doing midnight feedings, singing lullabies in a voice that was surprisingly tender for such a confident man. I thought I had won the lottery. I thought I had found one of the good ones. Our son Lucas came 2 years later in 2016. Another perfect child. Another tearful moment in the delivery room. Another expansion of our family that seemed to deepen our bond. Ryan talked about buying a bigger house, about moving to the suburbs, about building a life that would give our children everything they deserved. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. I believed him because the alternative was unthinkable. But the cracks were there even then. I just couldn't see them. The travel increased after Lucas was born. Ryan was gone 2 weeks out of every month now, sometimes more. He said the company was expanding, that he had been promoted to regional director, that his territory now included Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico in addition to the Midwest. The salary increase was significant. He showed me the numbers. He showed me the new title on his business cards. He showed me everything I needed to see to stop asking questions. But the money didn't add up. Ryan made $185,000 a year according to his tax returns, a comfortable salary that should have allowed us to live well in Chicago. Instead, we were always tight. The mortgage payments were a stretch. The daycare bills piled up. I went back to work full-time when Lucas was 6 months old because we needed my income to make ends meet. When I asked Ryan about it, he said we were investing in our future, putting money into retirement accounts and college funds for the kids. I didn't ask to see the statements. I trusted him to manage our finances. I was too tired from working and parenting and surviving to scrutinize every dollar. That trust was the most expensive mistake of my life. The warning signs came in small moments that I dismissed or explained away. Ryan's phone was always locked, always face down on the table, always silenced. He said he needed boundaries between work and home, that the constant notifications were stressful. I thought it was reasonable. I thought he was being healthy about work-life balance. He never posted photos of our family on social media. He said he was private, that he didn't want our children's faces on the internet, that he preferred to live in the moment rather than perform for an audience. I thought it was admirable. I thought he was protecting us. He insisted on separate bank accounts for simplicity. His salary went into his account. Mine went into mine. We had a joint account for household expenses that we both contributed to. He said it was easier for taxes, easier for tracking, easier for everyone. I thought it was practical. I thought he was organized. Every red flag looked like a green one from where I was standing. The business trips followed a pattern I never questioned. He would leave on Sunday night, fly to Denver or Salt Lake City or wherever the clients were, and return on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. During the week, he would call every evening around 8 p.m., right after the kids went to bed. He would text good morning and good night. He would FaceTime occasionally, always from hotel rooms that looked identical to every other hotel room I had ever seen. He was present even when he was absent. He was performing fatherhood and husbandhood across 1,000 miles of distance, and I never once suspected that the performance was split between two stages. The discovery happened on October 3, 2023. I remember the date because it was 3 days after our 11th wedding anniversary, an anniversary we had celebrated with dinner at our favorite restaurant, and a night away from the kids at a boutique hotel downtown. Ryan had been unusually attentive that weekend, bringing me flowers, writing a card about how grateful he was for our life together. At the time I thought it was romantic. Now I understand it was guilt. He was overcompensating for something I didn't know about yet. I was in Denver for a nursing conference. It was my first work trip in years, a 3-day event focused on pediatric care innovations. Ryan was supposedly in Utah that week, visiting hospitals in Salt Lake City. We had laughed about being on the road at the same time, about being ships passing in the night. He had texted me that morning. "Miss you already. Can't wait to be home with my girls and my guy." The conference let out early on the second day. A speaker had canceled, leaving a 2-hour gap in the afternoon schedule. I decided to run errands rather than sit in the hotel. I needed diapers for Lucas, who was going through them faster than we could stock them. I found a Costco on Google Maps, drove 20 minutes to the suburbs, and walked into a warehouse store in a city where I knew no one. But I did know someone. I just didn't know I knew her. I was in the baby aisle, comparing diaper brands, when I saw a woman with a cart approaching from the other direction. She had a toddler in the seat, a little boy with sandy hair and blue eyes. Something about the child made me look twice. The shape of his face. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled at me. He looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. Then I looked at the woman. She was pretty, mid-30s, with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and a harried expression that I recognized from my own mirror. She was wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt, the uniform of mothers everywhere. On her left hand was a wedding ring, a simple gold band with a small diamond. I don't know why I looked at the ring. I don't know why it caught my attention. But once I saw it, I couldn't look away. The band was identical to mine. Not similar. Identical. The same width. The same gold. The same small diamond in the same setting. I had looked at that ring every day for 11 years. I knew every millimeter of it. And this woman was wearing its twin. My eyes moved from her ring to the child in the cart. I looked at his face again, really looked. The blue eyes. The shape of his chin. The small dimple on his left cheek that appeared when he smiled. Ryan had that dimple. Emma had it too. It was a family trait. A genetic marker passed down from father to child. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I actually staggered, reached out to grab a shelf for support. The woman noticed. She stopped her cart and looked at me with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Do you need to sit down?" I stared at her. I stared at the child. I stared at the ring. My mouth opened but no sound came out. I was trying to form a sentence, trying to ask a question, trying to confirm a suspicion that couldn't possibly be true. I'm fine, I managed. Your ring. It's beautiful. Where did you get it? She smiled and glanced at her hand. My husband picked it out. We got married 7 years ago. It's not fancy, but I love it. 7 years ago. 2016. The same year Lucas was born. The same year Ryan's travel increased dramatically. The same year our money started disappearing into accounts I never saw. What's your husband's name? I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. The woman's smile faltered. She looked confused by the question. Ryan Mitchell. Why do you ask? The world tilted. The fluorescent lights of the Costco blazed too bright. The noise of the warehouse faded to a distant hum. I was standing in a suburban Denver store, looking at a woman who had just told me she was married to my husband, while a child who was clearly his son chewed on a teething toy in the cart. I think we need to talk, I said. My name is Vivian Mitchell. I've been married to Ryan Mitchell for 11 years. We have 2 children. And I think we're married to the same man. She dropped a jar of peanut butter. It shattered on the concrete floor, glass and brown paste exploding in every direction. A store employee hurried over. Shoppers turned to look. But neither of us moved. We just stood there, staring at each other. 2 women who had just discovered that their entire lives were lies. Her name was Melissa. Melissa Mitchell. She was 34 years old. She had married Ryan Mitchell on March 8, 2016 at a courthouse in Denver. They had 2 children together. A 5-year-old daughter named Sophie and the 2-year-old son in the cart, whose name was James. She believed Ryan worked in medical device sales. She believed he traveled constantly for work. She believed she was his only wife. She believed everything I had believed. We left Costco and went to a coffee shop down the street. Melissa's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her cup. James sat in a high chair, oblivious to the fact that his entire family structure was collapsing around him. I showed Melissa photos of Ryan on my phone. At our wedding with Emma and Lucas, at birthday parties and holidays. She showed me photos of Ryan on her phone. At their wedding with Sophie and James, at the same kinds of birthday parties and holidays. The same man. The same smile. The same life duplicated across 2 cities. I don't understand, Melissa kept saying. He's here every week. He's home every week. How could he have another family? I did the math out loud. Ryan told me he traveled for work 2 weeks out of every month. He told Melissa the same thing. He had divided his time perfectly. 1 week with me in Chicago, 1 week with her in Denver, with the travel days in between to create the illusion of distance. He had been living 2 complete lives for 7 years, and neither of us had suspected a thing. But the money. Where was the money coming from? Melissa told me Ryan made $175,000 a year. Combined with my understanding of his $185,000 salary, that was $360,000 annually. But we weren't living like a family with that kind of income. Neither was she. We were both struggling, both stretching every dollar, both going back to work earlier than we wanted because the household couldn't function on one salary. He manages all our finances, Melissa said. He said it was easier that way. Of course he did. The same script for both wives. The same explanation. The same control. I asked Melissa if she had access to Ryan's accounts. She said she had the login to their joint checking account, the one he contributed to for household expenses. I asked her to check the balance. She pulled out her phone, logged in, and showed me the screen. The balance was $4,200. Enough to cover a month of bills. Nothing more. I checked our joint account on my phone. The balance was $3,800. Same pattern. Enough to survive on. Nothing to build with. Ryan was making at least $360,000 a year, probably more. He was giving each of us just enough to stay afloat while hoarding the rest somewhere we couldn't see. Where is the money? Melissa asked, her voice breaking. I didn't have an answer. But I was going to find out. The next 72 hours were a blur of investigation and heartbreak. I extended my stay in Denver, telling Ryan I had extra conference sessions. He believed me because he was too busy lying to notice when he was being lied to. Melissa called in sick to her job as a dental hygienist. We met every day, sharing information, comparing notes, building a picture of the man we had both married. We discovered that Ryan owned a house in Denver, a 4-bedroom in a suburb called Centennial. The mortgage was in his name alone. Melissa had assumed it was an asset, something they were building together. The property records told a different story. Ryan had bought the house in 2015, a year before he married Melissa. He had been planning this second life even then. We discovered that Ryan had bank accounts we didn't know about. Melissa found statements in a filing cabinet, accounts at banks neither of us used. The balances were staggering. A savings account with $187,000. A brokerage account with $290,000. A checking account that seemed to be his personal fund, with $47,000 in available cash. He had been siphoning money from both marriages for years, building a secret fortune while his wives worked overtime to pay for diapers. We discovered that Ryan's company, the medical device firm he had worked for since before I met him, had no record of him traveling to Denver. According to HR records that Melissa obtained by calling and pretending to be a headhunter, Ryan's territory was exclusively in the Midwest. He had never been assigned to Colorado. The business trips to Denver were entirely fabricated. We discovered, most devastatingly, that Ryan had taken out life insurance policies on both of us. $500,000 on me. $500,000 on Melissa. Both policies were less than 3 years old. Both listed Ryan as the sole beneficiary. When I saw those policies, something cold settled in my stomach. Life insurance wasn't unusual for married couples. But $500,000 on each wife, purchased around the same time, with no corresponding policies on himself? That wasn't planning for the future. That was planning for something else entirely. I called a lawyer that night. Her name was Catherine Park, a family law attorney in Chicago who specialized in complex divorces. I told her everything. The second wife, the hidden money, the life insurance policies. She was quiet for a long moment after I finished. "This is one of the most elaborate cases of bigamy I've ever heard of," she said. "Your husband has committed multiple felonies. The second marriage is fraudulent. The financial deception is grounds for significant damages. Those life insurance policies are concerning enough that we should involve law enforcement." Law enforcement? I hadn't thought that far ahead. I was still processing the basic fact of betrayal, still trying to understand how the man I had slept beside for 11 years was a complete stranger. "What do?" I asked. "Document everything. Don't confront him yet. We need to know the full scope of what he's done before he has a chance to hide assets or destroy evidence. Can you get access to his personal accounts?" I couldn't. But Melissa could. Melissa had access to Ryan's home office in Denver. She had access to the filing cabinet where he kept documents. She had access to the house where he had been living his other life, building his other family, pretending to be a devoted husband and father while I did the same thing 1,000 miles away. Melissa spent 2 days photographing everything. Bank statements, investment accounts, property records, credit card bills, tax returns, a secret phone he kept in a locked drawer, a phone that neither of us knew existed. She downloaded everything she could from his computer while he was at work, which we now understood meant he was flying back to Chicago to be with me. The picture that emerged was devastating. Ryan had been running this scheme for 7 years. He had 2 complete identities, 2 complete lives, 2 complete families. He had married Melissa while still legally married to me, which was a felony. He had filed taxes as single in Colorado and married in Illinois, which was fraud. He had used money from both households to fund his secret accounts, which was theft. He had constructed an elaborate web of lies that required constant maintenance, constant travel, constant deception. And the life insurance policies. Catherine's contact at the FBI said they were consistent with a pattern seen in other cases. Cases where bigamist husbands had eventually decided that 2 families were too expensive to maintain. Cases where one wife had died under suspicious circumstances. Cases where the insurance payout made the remaining family suddenly much more affordable. I don't know if Ryan was planning to kill one of us. I'll never know for certain. But the FBI agent who reviewed our evidence said the policies were a significant red flag that warranted serious attention. We planned the confrontation carefully. Melissa and I wanted to do it together. We wanted Ryan to see both of his wives standing side by side, united against him. We wanted him to understand that his two separate worlds had collided, and there was no escape. The date was October 28, 2023. Ryan thought he was coming home to Chicago for a normal weekend. I had told him I would pick him up from the airport. Instead, Melissa flew in from Denver that morning. She stayed at a hotel near O'Hare. We drove to the airport together in my car, two women about to blow up their own lives to expose a man who deserved everything he was about to receive. Ryan walked out of the terminal with his carry-on bag, looking for my car. He spotted me in the pickup lane and smiled. That smile. The same smile that had charmed me at a charity gala 13 years ago. The same smile he used on Melissa. The same smile that had hidden so much cruelty for so long. He opened the back door to throw in his bag. That's when he saw Melissa sitting in the back seat. I will never forget the expression on his face. The color drained from his skin. His mouth opened but no sound came out. He looked at Melissa, then at me, then back at Melissa. His brain was trying to process what his eyes were seeing, trying to find an explanation that didn't involve the complete collapse of his carefully constructed lie. "Hello, Ryan," Melissa said. Her voice was calm, controlled, colder than I had ever heard it. "Vivian and I have been getting to know each other. We have a lot in common. Mostly you." Ryan dropped his bag. He stepped back from the car like it was radioactive. He started to say something, started again. "This isn't. I can explain. You don't understand." "We understand perfectly," I said. "We know about both marriages. We know about the hidden accounts. We know about the $524,000 you've been hoarding while your family struggled. We know about the life insurance policies you took out on both of us. We know everything, Ryan. The only thing we don't know is why." He stood on the curb, cars honking behind us, travelers streaming past with their luggage. He looked like a man watching his own execution. "Please," he said. "Let me explain. I never meant for this to happen. I love you both. I love all of our children. I was trying to make everyone happy." "You were trying to make yourself happy," Melissa said. "You were living a fantasy at our expense. Do you have any idea what you've done to us? To our kids? Sophie asks about you every day you're gone. She thinks Daddy is working hard to take care of her. She doesn't know Daddy has a whole other family he loves just as much. And Emma and Lucas," I added. "They think their father is a hero. They brag about you at school. They don't know you're a bigamist and a thief and probably worse." Ryan started crying. Actual tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I got in too deep. I didn't know how to stop. Every day I thought about telling the truth, but I couldn't bear to lose either of you. I couldn't bear to hurt the kids. I was trapped in something I created and I didn't know how to get out. I felt nothing." His tears, his apologies, his explanations meant nothing to me. I had given this man 11 years of my life. I had borne his children. I had trusted him with my future. And he had repaid me with a lie so comprehensive that I couldn't even see where the truth ended and the deception began. "We're done, Ryan," I said. "Both of us. We've already contacted lawyers. We've already contacted the FBI. The only question now is whether you cooperate and maybe stay out of prison, or fight us and definitely go to prison. The choice is yours." We left him standing on the curb at O'Hare International Airport. In the rearview mirror, I watched him sink to his knees on the concrete, still crying, still holding his bag, looking like a man who had just lost everything. He had. And he deserved to. The legal process took 14 months. Ryan was charged with bigamy, fraud, and filing false tax returns. The bigamy charge alone carried up to 5 years in prison. Combined with the financial crimes, he was facing serious time. Catherine Park handled my divorce. A lawyer in Denver named Michelle Torres handled Melissa's annulment. We coordinated our cases, sharing evidence and strategy. We were determined to extract every dollar Ryan had stolen from us. The forensic accountants traced everything. Over 7 years, Ryan had diverted approximately $340,000 from our two households into his secret accounts. He had used some of it to buy the house in Denver outright, paying off the mortgage early with money that should have been shared with his families. He had invested the rest in stocks and bonds that grew significantly over the years. By the time we discovered the fraud, His hidden portfolio was worth over $620,000. The court ordered all assets divided. After legal fees and penalties, I received $287,000 from the settlement. Melissa received a similar amount. Ryan was left with nothing except the criminal charges against him. He took a plea deal in January 2025. 3 years in federal prison for the fraud charges plus 2 years probation. The bigamy charge in Colorado resulted in an additional 2 years, to be served consecutively. 5 years total. He would be 50 when he got out, a convicted felon with no money, no career, and 2 ex-wives who had made sure the world knew exactly what he had done. I was there for the sentencing. So was Melissa. We sat together in the courtroom, 2 women who had been strangers a year earlier, and were now bonded by shared trauma. Ryan looked at us before the judge announced the sentence. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. We both turned away. There was nothing left to say. The aftermath has been slow and painful. Explaining to Emma and Lucas why Daddy won't be coming home anymore was the hardest thing I've ever done. Emma is 11 now, old enough to understand that her father did something very wrong. She's angry at him, angry at me for not protecting her from the truth, angry at a world that turned out to be so much crueler than she expected. Lucas is 9, still young enough to be confused but old enough to feel the absence. He asks about Ryan sometimes, usually at bedtime, usually when he's tired and vulnerable. I tell him that Daddy made some bad choices and has to face the consequences. I don't tell him about Melissa or Sophie or James. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Melissa and I have stayed in touch. We're not friends exactly, but we're something. Fellow survivors. Women who went through something together that no one else can fully understand. She sends me pictures of Sophie and James sometimes. I send her pictures of Emma and Lucas. Our children are siblings whether they know it or not. Someday maybe we'll introduce them. Someday when they're old enough to understand. I moved to a new apartment after the settlement. I couldn't stay in the townhouse where Ryan and I had built our fake life together. The new place is smaller but it's mine. Every piece of furniture is something I chose. Every decoration is something I picked. There's no trace of Ryan anywhere. No reminder of the man who lied to me every day for 11 years. My mother asked me once if I saw any signs, if there was anything that should have warned me. I've thought about that question a lot. The locked phone. The separate accounts. The resistance to social media. The convenient explanations for everything. They were all signs, but they were signs that could mean anything. Trust makes you blind. Love makes you stupid. I wanted to believe in my marriage so badly that I explained away everything that threatened it. I've started dating again cautiously, with walls up that weren't there before. I check backgrounds now. I verify stories. I ask questions that would have seemed paranoid before Ryan and now seem like basic self-protection. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone completely again. I don't know if that's even possible after what I've been through. But I'm trying. I'm alive and I'm trying, and that has to count for something. If you're listening to this story and something feels familiar, if your spouse travels too much, if the money never quite adds up, if there are locked phones and convenient explanations, I want you to listen to that feeling. Check the credit reports. Follow the paper trail. Ask the questions that feel uncomfortable to ask. I wish someone had told me to do that before I wasted 11 years on a man who was never really mine. Ryan sent me a letter from prison last month. He said he was sorry. He said he never stopped loving me. He said he hoped someday I could forgive him. I read the letter once, then burned it in the kitchen sink. His apologies mean nothing. They're just more performance from a man who performed his entire life. I don't know what Ryan thought would happen. I don't know if he planned to maintain 2 families forever, or if he was waiting for some opportunity to choose one and abandon the other. I don't know if those life insurance policies were just financial planning or something darker. I'll probably never know. Some questions don't have answers, and some answers wouldn't help anyway. What I do know is that I survived. I found the truth even though it destroyed the life I thought I had. I stood next to another woman who had been deceived the same way I was, and together we brought down a man who thought he was untouchable. I rebuilt my finances, my career, my sense of self from the wreckage he left behind. My name is Vivian. I was married to a bigamist for 11 years. He had another wife, other children, a whole other life that I knew nothing about. He stole $340,000 from our families while we struggled to pay for groceries. He took out life insurance policies on both of his wives and I still don't know why. I found out by accident in a Costco 1,000 miles from home. I met his other wife in the diaper aisle. We both wore identical wedding rings and neither of us knew the other existed. We know now. We found each other. We found the truth. And we made sure Ryan Mitchell paid for every single lie. Some people will say I should have seen the signs. Some people will say I was naive, foolish, too trusting. They're right. I was all of those things. But I was also a woman who loved her husband, trusted her partner, and believed in her family. Those aren't flaws. Those are the things that make life worth living. Ryan exploited them because he could, because I let him, because I never imagined someone could be so comprehensively cruel. I'm not naive anymore. I'm not trusting. I'm not the woman who met a charming stranger at a charity gala and believed every word he said. That woman died in a Costco in Denver, standing in the diaper aisle, looking at a child who shouldn't exist. The woman who emerged is stronger, harder, more careful. She checks her bank accounts weekly. She runs background checks on anyone who gets close. She keeps her documents in a safe that no one else can access. She loves her children fiercely and protects them from anyone who might hurt them. She will never again give someone the power to deceive her so completely. Ryan Mitchell is in federal prison. He'll be there for 5 years. His 2 wives are free. His 4 children are being raised by mothers who will teach them that lying has consequences, and that the truth always comes out eventually. I met my husband's other wife at a Costco in Denver. It was the worst day of my life. But it was also the day I started getting my life back. If this story helped you, if it made you look more carefully at the person sleeping beside you, if it made you ask a question you've been afraid to ask, then something good came from my pain. Trust is precious. Love is precious. But the truth is more precious than both. Find it. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. The truth is the only thing that can set you free.